Okay, I'm just going to briefly start again. It's Tazria Metzora. The question is, how can both parshas be together? Tazria means life. Metzora is a leper, which means death. But the Torah is teaching us that the ultimate goal is to give life even to somebody who's dead, even somebody who's a leper. In other words, the role of a Jew is to give life into things that are seemingly dead. What does this mean? It could be in a very broad, there's many, many aspects of this. But for instance, the neshama comes into the body. The neshama is life. The body itself is a dead piece of meat. The body has no life without the neshama in it. What's the role of a neshama? To give life to the dead body. What's the concept of Yiddishkeit? Torah is Chayim. Kihem Chayenu. Atem Edveikem B'Hashem Elokeichem Chayim Kulchem Hayim. You cling to Hashem, you're all alive. Torah is the level of Torah's Chayim. Life. What is the purpose of Torah? To give life to the world. What is the purpose of Yiddishkeit? That everybody becomes a Baal Tshuva. What do you mean everybody becomes a Baal Tshuva? Somebody sinned, it's spiritual death. What's the concept of Torah mitzvahs tshuva? To put life into the dead. So the whole concept of Tazria Metzora, not only are they not contradictory, but actually Tazria Metzora is telling us what is the role and the function of a Jew. The role and the function of a Jew is actually to put life into things that are seemingly not godly. They're evil, and therefore evil is called dead. Like we just quoted the pasuk. Atem adveikem b'Hashem Elokeichem. When you cling to God, Chayim kolchem hayom, you are alive. Which means if you don't cling to God, then you're dead. Therefore, wicked people, we learned in Tanya, are called Rishoyim b'chayehem kruyim mesim. Rosh Rishon, wicked people, even when they're alive, are called dead. Why? Because they're disconnected from God. The role of a Jew is Tazria to Metzora, to give seed and life to this person who's a leper. And we'll get into leprosy soon in a much greater way. But Rashi opens up with Amir Rab Simloi says. Now, if you remember last week's Parsha, the end of Shmini deals with the laws of kosher animals, non-kosher animals. It deals with all the laws of animals, what animals you're allowed to eat, what animals you're not allowed to eat. Then in Parshas Tazria, the Torah speaks about the life, kosher and, so to speak, pure and impure, impurities, leprosy. So why are the laws of humans in the Torah after the laws of animals? So Rashi opens the Parsha Amir Rab Simloi. Rab Simloi said, just like when Hashem created people, Hashem created them just like in creation. As we know, in creation, the last thing Hashem created was people on Friday. Animals were created earlier on Friday. Birds were created Thursday. All the animals and birds, everybody was created before person. Adam Rishon was the last. Not the last creation, but from the last. So he says, just like the creation of a person was after the creation of animals, so he says, and therefore, the Torah about people comes after the Torah of people, of animals. Okay, very simple. Men were created last, therefore the Torah is created last. Animals were created before man, so therefore the laws of animals come before man. That's the simple meaning. But what does this mean over here? Why was a person created last? Why were the animals created first? And the Gemara and the Medrash have two answers to that question. Why was a person created last? Why did Hashem create people last? One place it says that in the case a person becomes too haughty and they start thinking that they're too great, Hashem says to them, and Torah says to them, Afilu yitush kadamach. Even the gnat, the mosquito, Yitush is the lowest creature. I'll explain why in a second. Don't think you're so great, man. People don't think you're so great. Because even the bugs, the yitush, the mosquitoes, the gnats come before you. And the Gemara says, what's unique about a yitush? The Gemara says the uniqueness of a yitush is, in evil, machnis ve'ena meitzi. It takes in food and doesn't give out any waste whatsoever. The mosquito is such a, but for lack of a better word, it's called a mosquito. But it's not literally a mosquito. The Gemara says the mosquito only takes in and doesn't even give out waste. Normal animals take in food and give out waste. People take in food and give out waste. The yitush is so low and so despicable. It's such a taker and no giving whatsoever. That's the lowest sign of evil. Only I exist. I don't even give out waste to anybody. Nobody else exists besides me. So the Gemara says, why was Adam and Ishmael created last? That in case a person becomes haughty, we tell him, boy, don't think you're so great. Even the Yitush, who's the lowest of the low, was created before you. And if he's created before you, there's an advantage of him being created earlier. That's one answer Chazal tell us. Another answer Chazal tell us is, Sheyehei hakel mochen l'seuda. Why did God create Adam Rishon last? So the analogy given is very simple. If you want to build a palace for the king, you don't put the king on an empty lot and then build the palace with all the furnishings. What do? You build the palace. You put in all the furnishings. You get it all ready. And now when it's all ready, then you bring the king into the palace. So the second answer of the Gemara is, you know why Adam was created last? Not because the bugs come before you, because the Torah wants to tell us that the person is the unique, elite creature, the epitome of creation, that everything in the world was created to be ready for Adam Rishon to come in and function and live. These two answers are paradoxical. Here we're speaking the lowness of man, even the bugs come first. And here we're speaking about the greatness of man, that everything is ready for the person. The whole world was created for the person. So which one is it? The Rebbe says in many sichos, we find a similar thing about the name Adam itself. In Chumash itself, why was he called Adam? So the pasuk says, because he came from the Adama, from the ground, from the earth, from the dirt. Because he came from the ground, so he's called Adam, from the word Adama, ground. Shalah HaKadosh brings down that why was Adam Rishon called Adam? Because Adam means Adame La'elyin, similar to God. Domeh. Adame La'elyin means he's called Adam because he's similar to God. He's created in the image of God. And again, we have these two paradoxes. It's a paradox. Here we're saying Adam is called Adam because he comes from the dirt, the lowest thing, something everybody steps on, the lowest of the low. And then we say, why is he called Adam? Because he's the highest of the high. So which one is it? And the answer is, there's a few answers that Rabbi gives in different sichos. One answer is, it depends if we're talking about the neshama or the body. The neshama of the person, chelak halakah mimal, a part of God, the neshama is greater than everything else. Adam la'elyin, the neshama is a part of God, it's similar to God. Everything in the world was created for the neshama to come into the body. You're talking about the body. The body is a hunk of meat. The body is worthless. As we all know, and we mentioned this many times, the most helpless, hopeless, newborn baby of any creature that exists in the world is a baby, a human baby. All animals They're born, they could take care of themselves. A human baby, God forbid, is born and is left there, is going to die because it's helpless. It can't take care of itself. So if you're talking about the neshama, you're talking about Adam el Elyon. It's the last creature because everything should be ready for it. If you're talking about the low level of the body of the person, then yeah, he's the creature, he's Adama, he's ground, he's the last of all creations. But the Rebbe explains it in a sense even, that's one sikha. In another sikha, the Rebbe explains it even deeper. And that is as follows. We say in L'Chadaydi, Seif Ma'aseh B'machshava Tchila. The end of action was in thought first. It says it's in L'Chadaydi. Seif Ma'aseh B'machshava Tchila. The end of all creations, meaning mankind, B'machshava Tchila was initially in God's thought to begin with, meaning that's the purpose of creation. So therefore, the Rebbe explains like this. The ultimate avodah is a person to work with themselves. Seif ma'aseh. And we'll soon discuss this in other aspects of the Parsha. A person has to know that Seif ma'aseh machshava tchila, what does God really want? There's a pasuk that says, Lemaise yodecha tichseif. God longs for the action of Jews, of Torah mitzvahs. So the fact that Adam Rishon is created last, meaning the lowest, that's the Rebbe explains, that's the greatness of man, that because he's the lowest, because mankind is the lowest, that means he has to do his own avodah. He's not giving anything from above. He has no yichus, he has no help from above. It's the help that he does on his own. And the Rebbe explains interestingly in Rashi Sikha, that's where Rashi quotes Amar Rab Simloi. Rashi doesn't always quote who says it. And the Rebbe explains because Rab Simloi, the Gemara says, had no yichus, he had no lineage. He didn't have great parents, he didn't have a great background. In fact, the Gemara says Rabbi Yechanan didn't want to learn the book of Yuchsin, the book of lineage with him, because he had no lineage. What is Rab Simloi coming about? Because he didn't have any lineage, because he didn't have this inborn greatness, his Aveda was more respected and loved by Hashem than people that had the big yichus. And that's what the Rabbi Simloi is saying. Just like in creation, the person was created last, as if to say you are the lowest, but because of that, Hashem loves it the best, because Hashem wants the avodah of the Jew doing not gift from above, but doing their avodah. This is what Hashem really loves. And that's why Adam Rishon was created last for both things. His neshama is the greatest, his body is the lowest. There's avodah of working with yourself, that's the lowest level, but you attain the highest levels. Seif Maaseh, the lowest of action, originates in the highest of thoughts. And that's the greatness of the Jew. Another interesting thing, Rashi quotes also at the beginning of the Parsha. It's a very big question how this works scientifically and medically. But Lepel, Torah says like this. It says in the pasuk, Isha ki Tazria v'yolda zachar. Okay? If a woman, Isha ki Tazria, if a woman will give seed, v'yolda zachar, she'll give birth to a boy. So the Gemara says that ish mazriya tchila, if a man gives the seed first, then you give birth to a girl. Isha mazras tchila, if the woman gives the seed first, again, it's very questionable what this means in a medical way, but this is what Torah says. If a man gives the seed first, you give birth to a girl. Isha mazras tchila, if the woman gives the seed first, then you give birth to a boy. That's what the Gemara says. And the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh explains this as follows. Ish, man, refers to Hashem. Isha, we're the wife, we're God's wife, we're Knesset Yisrael. The Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh explains as follows. Ish mazras tchila, if the man gives the seed first, meaning, if Hashem is giving us the help from above first, meaning if Hashem is helping us, you led us the keva. With all due respect to women, the Torah says women are the weaker gender. Okay, take it, that's it, and finished. So the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh says like this: ish mazras tchila. If this help, the seed, the planting of Torah mitzvahs of the Jew comes from Ish, comes from Hashem, you're going to give birth to a female, meaning it's not a proper Avodah. And I'll explain what that means in a second. Isha mazras tchila. If it becomes initially the work of the Jew, no gifts from above. It becomes your Avodah, the person's Avodah, then you led the Zachar, you're going to give birth to a male, which is much stronger. And the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh adds to this as follows. Today, when we daven, we say, Shira Chadasha, Shibchu, right before the Amid, right before Shemoneh Esrei. We say, Shira Chadasha, feminine. Shira Chadasha, feminine. In Haggadah Shel Pesach, we say the name lefanav shir chadash, masculine, hallelujah. And Taisus in the Gemara, Taisus says this, that when we say shira chadash, a feminine song, is not the ultimate powerful song because there's a golus afterwards. The Jews said praise after Mitzrayim. Yeah, but it wasn't permanent because there was a golus again and again and again and again. So it's called Shira Chadasha Shibchu Geulim, the Shimcha Golos Fasa Yom. When they said Oz Yashir, the Torah calls it Shira Chadasha feminine because it's weak. Why is it weak? Because it's coming from Hashem. It's not our doing. Ish Mazras Tchila. The man is giving me, Hashem is giving the help from above. It's not our own doing. Isha mazras tchila. If a woman gives the seed first, meaning the avodah of Torah mitzvahs comes from the Jew, from the woman, from Hashem's wife, so to speak, then you give birth to Shir Chodosh, the ultimate geula with Mashiach, which is Shir Chodosh, Taisus says, is the masculine because it's powerful that there won't be a golus afterwards. And therefore, that's the masculine shir, is the masculine song. And it's interesting to note, the Alter Rebbe was the grandfather of the Tzemach Tzedek. And the Tzemach Tzedek was the son of the Alter Rebbe's daughter. Right? The Alter Rebbe had a daughter, Dvor Leah, who gave up her life for the Alter Rebbe. And she had a son, the Tzemach Tzedek. And the Alter Rebbe once told the Tzemach Tzedek the following. Ish Mazra, he wanted to show connection between him and the Tzemach Tzedek, a very direct connection. So he said to the Tzemach Tzedek like this: the man gives seed first. Ish Mazras Tchila, you give birth to a girl, that's your mother. Ish Mazras Tchila, you led the Zachar. If the woman gives the seed to give birth to a boy, that's you. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, me and you are very strongly interconnected. Because my seed created your mother, and your mother's seed created you. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe said to him, we have a very strong connection between the two. And that's what the spiritual meaning of Ish Mazras Tchila, you let us in the cave of meaning. If the Avodah comes as a gift from above, it's not worth anything. There's the famous story when the Alter Rebbe wanted, he called it the Tzemach Tzedek, his grandson, and he said, I want to give you a bracha that you should know Torah. I want to give you a gift of Torah. Tzemach Tzedek said to his grandfather, I decline because I want to work in Torah. I don't want any Torah gifts. I don't want a gift of Torah. I want to work in Torah. I want to be diligent in Torah. And the Tzemach Tzedek declined the bracha, believe it or not. Afterwards, the way the story is, the way the Rabbi told over the story, the Tzemach Tzedek regretted it, that he didn't take the bracha. He said, why? Because I could have gotten the gift from the Alter Rebbe and be diligent from there up. So I could have gotten a big gift from the Alter Rebbe of Torah, and then I could have started my diligence on that higher level. So I would have gained by it, but he didn't. Because Torah needs to have diligence. Torah needs to have the avodah of the Jew. It has to be Isha Mazras Tchila. When the Jew does the avodah at the time of Galus, the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says, you led the Zachar, you give birth to the ultimate Geula of Shir Chodesh, the masculine Shir. Okay, now there's another very interesting thing. We know, everybody knows leprosy comes because of Lashon Hara. You speak Lashon Hara, the Torah says you get leprosy. Why? So the Torah connects it. A leper is sent outside the camps. He has to be excommunicated from the camps, separated from the rest of the Jews. And the Gemara says, and Rashi brings it down, that because Lashon Hara makes fights between people, so therefore the person who speaks Lashon Hara gets excommunicated from everybody else. He separated people from each other. He separated from Klal Yisrael. So there's an obvious question. Chassidus asks, if leprosy comes because of Lashon Hara, man, we should all be big lepers. We should be massive leprosy. And yet we don't have leprosy today. Chazal tells there's no halachic leprosy. By the way, the illness called leprosy that they have in various parts of the world has nothing to do with the Torah leprosy. The Rambam makes clearly in the laws of Tzaras has nothing to do with a physical illness. It's a spiritual revelation of above. Okay, to wake a person up. Well, we'll get there later. Now, the Rebbe asks another question. When it comes to leprosy, in this week's Parsha, the Torah starts also like this. Adam, if a person, will have in his skin, the various different leprosies. So the Torah says, what you got to do, you have to bring it to the Kohen, the whole Megillah, what to do. So the Alter Rebbe in the Torah asks a very simple question. There's 4 names of a person in Torah. There's going lower to higher. Let's start to higher to lower. The highest name of a person is called Adam. Second name of a person in Torah is Ish, which is the most common name in Chumash for a person is Ish. Isha. Then there's Gever, and then there's Enish. Aleph, Nun, Vav, Shin. These are the 4 names of a person. Adam, Ish, Gever, and Enish. It says, push it in Torah, that the highest name of a person is Adam. Then Ish, then Gever, and then Enish. Enish is the lowest. So Adam refers to the greatest level of a Jew. Adam, Atam Kriyim Adam. So the Alter Rebbe asks in Likutei Torah, the opening of leprosy, which Torah considers like a dead body, a dead person, a person who is excommunicated from the rest of the camp. Why in the world does the Torah use the word Adam? It should say Enish, Gever, Ish. Adam? Adam means Adam Elyon. He's similar to God. You're speaking about the lowness of leprosy. Why in the world are you using the word Adam? And that's what the Alter Rebbe asks in the Likutei Torah. And I'm going to go off for a minute and just make a whole kugel and cholent over here. There's a very interesting Gemara. Okay, Rabbi Shua ben Levi met Eliyahu Navi. He used to meet him pretty often. I don't know what they did, but they met pretty often. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi asked Eliyahu Navi, who is the Mashiach of our generation? Who is the Mashiach of our generation? So Eliyahu Navi said to him, go to the outskirts of Rome. It's a very famous Gemara in Sanhedrin. Go to the outskirts of Rome. You'll see a bunch of beggars. All of them are lepers. They all have lepers because they had no hygiene. Whatever. They were total lepers. And you'll see all of them doing like this. They have leprosy on their skin, so they smear cream on the whole skin, and then they bandage it, and then later they take off the bandage again, but they do the whole arm at one time. You're going to see one beggar on the outskirts of Rome that does piece by piece by piece. He doesn't do the whole hand at one time. That is the Mashiach. Okay? In fact, it's called Chivra Debei, what's it called? Debei Rebbe. Mashiach is called the leper of Rebbe. The leper of Rebbe. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi asked Mashiach, what's his name? So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Tzadik Ches, he says he's the leper of Beis Rebbe. Okay? Not the school Beis Rebbe. Of Beis Rebbe, of the Rebbe. Okay? The Gemara tells the famous story. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi goes to Rome and he sees a whole bunch of beggars sitting there, and exactly like he said, he's doing it this way, and everybody's doing the whole hand at a time, and this guy. So he comes to Mashiach and he says, hello, Mashiach. He says, Shalom Alecha ben Levi. He didn't call me Yeshua ben Levi. And there's a whole sikha why he called ben Levi instead of Yeshua ben Levi. He says, Shalom Alecha ben Levi. So he says to him, when are you coming? Mashiach, when you're coming? He said, Hayim, I'm coming today. I'm coming today. Hayim, that's what Mashiach answered him. If Yeshua ben Levi ran back to his home, wherever it was, and he got all excited, Mashiach's coming today. Mashiach himself told him he's coming today. And as we all know, he didn't come that day. So the next time he bumped into Eliyahu Navi, he said, hey, look, excuse me, sir. Mashiach said to me he's coming today. He didn't come. What's the story? And also, why did he do it differently than all the other beggars? So Eliyahu Navi said to him the following. The reason why he did it like that, because as soon as Hashem says, reveal yourself, he doesn't want to waste time having to fix his hand. He'll be in the middle of the whole hand. It takes time. He's doing piece by piece that the second Hashem says, come, he's going to be able to come. So he said, why didn't he come today? He said, Hayim. So Eliyahu Navi said to him, what he meant was, Hayim im b'kailei sishmo. I'll come today if you listen to the voice of Hashem. If you do what Hashem wants you to do, I'm coming today. Lepel, what do you see from that Gemara? Mashiach is called a leper. How in the world can Mashiach be called a leper? Adam, the highest level of a person, is the one that gets leprosy. How could that be? And also today, we should all have leprosy. Like what's going on over here with this Mashiach stuff? So the Alter Rebbe explains just on the contrary. Why does Mashiach is called the leper? Why was there leprosy in the earlier generations? The Alter Rebbe explains like this. What is leprosy? It's a skin issue. Nothing internal. I'm not talking about the physical leprosy. I'm talking about leprosy of the Torah, the physical spots of Torah. It's only skin deep. It's only on the skin. Which means, the Alter Rebbe explains, Mashiach is the ultimate perfection. The only thing missing by him, meaning his intellect, his emotions, his thought, speech, and action, everything of Mashiach is perfect. The only thing lacking is a little external little external spots. And he says, on the contrary, a person that's not great doesn't get leprosy. Because if your inside is corrupt, then your skin is not going to be corrupt. Leprosy of the skin means that internally you are perfect. You are 100% perfect internally. The only thing missing is a little bit of external things. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says, Adam kiya bebesare. Who is able to get leprosy? Who is able to get leprosy? Only somebody that's really Adam. Somebody is Adam Elyon. He's a very, very superly great person. And therefore, the only thing, and therefore it says like this, the Chassidic explains, the Rabbi brings it down in the Sikha. There's a pasuk that says about Mashiach, Hine yaskil avdi, Yodam v'nisa v'gavaya ma'id. Yaskil avdi speaks about the understanding of Mashiach, the Haskalah, the depth of Mashiach's understanding. Yodam v'nisa, he's elevated, he's high, v'gavaya, and he's lofty, ma'id, tremendous. Mashiach is going to be the ultimate level of greatness to the extent of ma'id, meaning infinite. What is the concept of Mashiach? Ma'id. Ma'id are the same letters as the word Adam. Adam and Ma'id are the same level. And it says in Kabbalah and Chassidus, the Rambam brings it down also in a certain way, that Mashiach is even greater than Adam. Adam is Aleph Daled Mem. Mashiach is Ma'id, meaning the letters of Adam, but in an infinite level of Kedusha. So the concept of Mashiach is ultimate perfection. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says like this in the Kutei Torah, leprosy, and that's why it doesn't exist now, because we don't have those revelations. The Alter Rebbe says leprosy is super great revelations of Hashem. It's white. Super great revelations of Hashem that only great people can get it. That's why Miriam had leprosy. Miriam was holy. Leprosy can't exist on somebody that's low. Who can only be imperfect in the skin? Somebody who internally is perfect. And that's the whole concept of Mashiach. And therefore, another interesting point. What the leprosy is called nega tzoras. Nega is a plague of tzoras. Chassidic explained out, the Rebbe explains, nega is the same, nun gimel ayin, is the same letters as ayin nun gimel, which is einig, pleasure. Einig is greater than intellect, it's greater than emotions, it's greater even than willpower. Like we learned, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, chaya yechida. Nefesh is the action, ruach are the midas, neshama is the intellect, chaya is the willpower. What's yechida? Eineg. V'karasa la Shabbos eineg. Shabbos is the level of pleasure. That Shabbos is the concept of Mashiach. What is the ultimate concept? Like we said before, the whole concept is Tazria Metzora. Tazria Metzora means to give life into the level of Tzoras. Tzoras is so great, it comes in the loftiest of levels, but it comes down far low. The higher the thing, the lower it falls, we learn. Kol hagaveh b'yeser, something that originates in a higher place, comes down lower. Because tzaras is the super high level, when it comes down into a human body, it's the worst thing. He's considered dead. He has to be excommunicated from the camp until he does tshuva. Why? Because it's a super great level coming down super low. And therefore, we don't have leprosy today. We don't have leprosy today because we're not great. In the olden times, neshamas were great. They had leprosy. Mashiach is called Chivra de Bei Rebbe, the leper, the white, meaning the leper of Rebbe. We're the generation to bring Mashiach, and that's connected to what we said before. Seif Ma'aseh b'machshava tchila, as we mentioned before. Why was Adam created last? The Rebbe explains not only neshama and guf, but because we're the lowest, and therefore our actions can accomplish more than the earlier generations, because we have a much more difficult time. It says in the Zohar, Meisha anav me'ed mikol adam asher al pnei adama. Meisha was the most humble person that ever lived on the face of the earth. It says in the Zohar, he was most humble when he saw the generation right before the coming of Mashiach. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw our generation, that all we see is problems, and all we have is golus, and the golus keeps getting worse and worse day by day. The cheshech gets darker, and yet Jews are doing Torah mitzvahs. They're doing their avodah. That's what's going to bring Mashiach. See, yes, we don't have leprosy because we don't have those high revelations of Kedusha. But the bottom line is our actions. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw, and in fact, by the way, coming back to an interesting point, Moshe Rabbeinu is called Ish Ho'elokim. Mashiach is called Ma'id, which is even greater than Adam. Adam is greater than Ish. Ish, we said, in the order of names, Adam, Ish, Gever, I think Anish Gever, whichever one those two are, it could be whatever the order is. But the top two is Adam and Ish. Moshe Rabbeinu is called Ish Elikim. Mashiach is called Ma'id. Not only is it Adam, but it's even higher than Adam. The level of Ma'id. But Dafka Aravaid is what does it. Another interesting aspect, the din of leprosy is as follows. The Torah says you have to bring it to the Kohen. You have to bring it to the Kohen. The Kohen has to look at it. Sometimes he locks it up for a week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, and then the Kohen proclaims, yes, leper, no leper, tar, tame, whatever it is. So the Gemara says, what happens if a Kohen is an ignorant Kohen? He doesn't know the halacha. What does he do? So the Gemara says this halacha. Rambam writes it down. The Gemara says it. He calls in a scholar. The Kohen calls in a scholar. And he discusses with the scholar if this is halachic leprosy or not. And the Kohen says the Chacham, the scholar says to the Kohen, it is or isn't. And then the Kohen proclaims yes or no. Not the scholar. The scholar has no right to make the definitive statement if it's leprosy or not. The Kohen can get the Chacham's opinion because he's an illiterate and the Chacham knows the halacha if it's leprosy or not. But the din is the Chacham cannot proclaim whether leprosy or not. So the Rebbe asks the question, why not? Think about it. It's a practical din. Is it leprosy or is it not leprosy? If it's not leprosy, it's not. If it is, it is. Why can't the Chacham just look at it and proclaim it? And the Rebbe says a phenomenal concept. This is the earlier years. It's a very simple statement, but it was very, very, very profound. The Rebbe said, what's a leprosy? A leprosy is somebody who's excommunicated. The person who's excommunicated. The only one that has a right to excommunicate a Jew or not is a Kohen, nobody else. Why a Kohen? Because a Kohen is Ish HaChesed. A Kohen is a man of kindness. What is it saying in Pirkei Avos? We just read this last Shabbos. Havemi Talmid of Shalaren, Ohev Shalem, Reidev Shalem, Oyev Sabrias, Umekavan Latera. A Kohen is a level of Chesed. A Kohen is a level of kindness. The only one, the Rebbe said, the only one who has a right to proclaim judgment on a Jew if they should be excommunicated or not, especially to be excommunicated, has to be a Jew-loving person. A person who loves the Jew, and therefore they will do whatever they can that the person shouldn't become excommunicated. And therefore the whole din of leprosy is only based on the decision of a Kohen if it is or not. Okay, next. Another aspect of leprosy that we have is there's three leprosies that the Torah between Parshas Tazria and Metzora. We spoke that the one Parsha. There's leprosy of people on their skin. There's leprosy of garments, and there's leprosy of houses. Okay? Rashi says in Parshas Metzora, when the pasuk speaks about leprosy of the houses, okay, let me go back a second. Before that, it says in the Gemara, in the Medrash, that first Hashem will put leprosy on the houses. It's a warning. Shape up. You don't get better, Hashem is going to bring it closer to home on your clothing. You still don't do tshuva, Hashem's going to put it onto your body. So it's actually three things, three different types of leprosy. Okay? And he says, now Rashi says, Ki savayo al eretz Canaan, when you come to the land of Canaan, and it will be that, let's say there will be leprosy in the house. Okay, so the Medrash says like this. What does it mean, Ki savayo al eretz Canaan, that I'm going to bring you there? It says like this. The people from Amodi, the nation of Amodi, they heard the Jews were coming. They heard they're going to conquer the land. They were hoping it was only going to be temporarily. It's going to be temporary. So what they did was they actually hid all their gold and silver in the walls of the house. They hid them in the walls of the house. So now the pasuk says, you're going to come to the land of Eretz Yisrael. V'nasati nega tzaras bebeis eretz achuzaschem. I'm going to put leprosy in your house. And then what does the Torah do? The Torah comes and says, okay, the Kohen comes and says the house is leprosy. What do? You have to take off the walls of the house. You have to take off the beams. You have to tear apart the house. So seemingly, it's bad. You're getting leprosy in the house. But the Medrash says, really, it's really good. Because then they're going to find all those hidden treasures that the people of Amodi left for the Jewish people. They're going to get all the fortunes of the people. So the question is again, is leprosy good or is leprosy bad? What's the story? Here we're saying you can get it in your house because you spoke Lashon Hara and Hashem is warning you about the house. Then you're told, no, it's going to be good. They're going to open up the house. So again, all of this is the same concept that we said before. It's good and it's bad. From one side, leprosy is a sign that you're not perfect. You're not being what you should be. And Hashem, before he even touches your body, puts it on on the house. But ultimately, the level of nega is to make it oineg. The ultimate goal is to take nega, plague, and make it into pleasure. And then we see another interesting lesson that I think we can all learn from this. It says the guy comes to the kohen and he says, I think I have leprosy in my house. And Rashi says, kinega, even if he knows he's a scholar, he shouldn't say it because he's not the one to proclaim it. Okay, he comes and he says to the kohen, I have leprosy. I think there's leprosy in my house. Pasuk says, "V'tziva kohen." What is the kohen? The first thing the kohen says, empty out the house. Empty out the house. Why? So Rashi says, because if the kohen comes to the house and proclaims the house tamei, impure, then everything in the house becomes impure. That's no good. Then you have to put everything in the mikveh. It's a massive hassle. So what does Hashem tell the Jew to do? What's the mitzvah in the Torah? The kohen comes first and says, take everything out of the house. And again, let's analyze this from a simple perspective. You're talking about a person that sins Lashon Hara. House is getting leprosy. Again, the concept of leprosy is considered death. And yet Hashem has pity on the guy's money. He doesn't want to ruin his money. Hashem said, empty out the house. You empty out the house, then you could proclaim the house is leprosy. But you don't do it with things that are in the house. It's a similar thing. What? No, they have to take apart the house and get rid of the leprosy. Yeah. But the same thing, you find an interesting halacha. God forbid, and this happened once in 770, the night of Kol Nidre, by the Rebbe, there was a Yid, the Shmaya Gerari, who always bought the right to give the Rebbe small Sefer Torah, the first Sefer Torah for Kol Nidre, he would give it to the Rebbe. Anyway, before he was able to give the Sefer Torah to the Rebbe, he had a heart attack. By Kol Nidre, the Rebbe was already in Shul. The Shul, we can imagine Kol Nidre, how many people are there? Thousands and thousands of people. And he fell on the ground. And he passed away that night by Yom Mamashim Kippur by the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said, and this is the halachah, but I'm just saying the story of the Rebbe said, before the doctors proclaim him dead, before the doctors paskin he's dead, every kohen should get out of the building. All the kohenim should get out of the building. Once the kohenim were out of the building, the Rebbe said, now they can say he died. What does that mean? It's a very interesting perspective. The guy was dead. He died. Until Torah says you're dead, you're not dead. Until Torah says you're tamei, you're not tamei. And who's Torah that says it? A kohen, a man of chesed. Until Torah says that you're dead, you're not dead. Until Torah says you're tamei, you're not tamei. Are you tamei? The kohen is going to say 3 minutes later. Nothing's changing right before they take out the furniture, after the furniture. Torah is the boss of the world. And Torah says we have pity on the money of this person who's speaking Lashon Hara, who has to be excommunicated, the house and whatever to a certain extent. What is it? Torah has pity on Jewish money. That's a very important lesson. We're not allowed to waste money, not only Jewish money. If it's not needed, you don't waste any money. It's interesting, when it came to do things in Yiddishkeit, there was never an issue with money. There's a story I heard from the person that it happened to, the head of, was called Sach, that did the Pa'ulas, the outreach activities in New York. He once gave the Rebbe 2 options. He said one option would be cheaper but less people would be able to put on tefillin. And there's a second option that would be more expensive, but less people would put on tefillin. So he asked the Rebbe, which one should he do? It was Rabbi Castell in New York. I heard it from himself. The Rebbe gave about a very sharp answer. The Rebbe said to him, how in the world do you even think that because of money people shouldn't put on tefillin? Like, where do you get that notion from? You tell me you'll save money, but less people will put on tefillin? How does that thought even enter your mind? When it comes to you need money, there's no end. You throw out all the treasures. Yet, if the Rebbe walked outside in 770, okay, and he saw the light in the sukkah during Sukkah's on, the Rebbe turned around to somebody and he said, it's a shame to waste Jewish money. How much electricity was it already? A few cents. It's not needed, you don't waste money. But until Torah says Tameh, you're not Tameh. There's one more thing, it's later. I want to mention this one more thing. Today's Chodesh Iyar. Iyar is a very special month. The month of Iyar, in fact, interesting in Halachit, it's a question, how do you write the month of Iyar? Is it Aleph Yud Reish? Or is it Aleph Yud Yud Reish? Shulchan Aruch brings down, now Halacha is, you write it like in an Ksuba or a Get, God forbid, you write Aleph Yud Yud Reish. Why do you write Aleph Yud Yud Reish? So it says in Kabbalah, the Shulchan Aruch brings this down. It says in Kabbalah that Iyar stands for Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel, which are the 4 feet, the four feet of Hashem's throne. We'll ask whatever that means. So Iyar is the level of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. And therefore Allah says you write it with 2 yuds because it's Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. But it says Iyar is also an acronym. Aleph Yud Yud Reish stands for Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am God, your doctor. And the Rebbe mentioned this many, many times to people that had illnesses in the month of Iyar. The Rebbe said, what do you want? It's the month of Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am God, your doctor. And there's a whole sikh in the Rebbe why there's 2 yuds for Hashem, not 1 yud for Hashem, but that's a separate issue. But the Rebbe explains an interesting thing. What does it mean Hashem says, I'm your doctor? What doctor are we talking about? So it says, in Parshas B'Shalach, the Torah says, Kol ha'machala asher samti b'Mitzrayim lo yosim alecha ki ani Hashem rofecha. Hashem said, I am all the illnesses, asher samti b'Mitzrayim that I gave Egyptians, lo yosim alecha, I will not give to you. Why? Ki ani Hashem rofecha. What type of doctor is God? Preventive medicine. Hashem says, I'm not going to make you sick like I made the Egyptians sick. Kol ha'machla is not the pshat, I'm going to make you sick and then I'm going to heal you. No. What type of doctor is Hashem? Ani Hashem rafecha. Hashem is a doctor that you never get sick. And that's what the month of Iyar is. The month of Iyar is the level of refuah, spiritual refuah, physical refuah, in a level of Ani Hashem Rafecha, preventive medicine. You never get sick. And that's what the month of Iyar, tonight's already Aleph Iyar, and that's the whole lesson of the month of Iyar. Okay, we're going to stop here. Mitzvah, I want to remind everybody, Wednesday night, there's Halach and Tanya. Again, we're going to be starting 11:15. 8:50, 11:15 New York time. 8:15 is the starting of the shir. Everybody should have a great week, a good Chodesh. Don't forget to count the Eimer. Tonight is 16. Don't forget to count the Eimer, and we'll Mitzvah see you Wednesday night. Have a great.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good night.
Great time.
Thank you so much. Bye.